Hey Freebs Nation. Hey Freebs Nation. Jordan Page with FunCheaperFree.com here, and today I'm gonna teach you how to get your baby to sleep through the night. Oh yes I am. Oh yes we are. You are looking at baby number 6 that I birthed myself. So I've been around the block a few times. We've had lots of babies and most of them are about 18 months apart or less. So we've had our fair share of sleepless nights and long days. One of the top questions I get whenever I have a baby is, how do you get your babies to sleep so well? Because it's true, my babies are pretty good sleepers. So while I'm sitting here putting my own baby to sleep, I thought I'd just share with you some of my best tips for getting your baby to sleep through the night as well. What do you say, buddy? Should we just get on with it? Let's do it. I'm going to start off with the most important tip. If you walk away with nothing else from this entire video, please remember this. Eat, awake, then sleep. One of the mistakes that a lot of times we make as moms, especially with cute brand new babies, is to nurse them or bottle feed them and they fall asleep while they're eating and it's so sweet and cuddly and snuggly, but then weird, they're up 30 minutes later or 45 minutes later and they're just not sleeping well. It is very important that no matter how old your baby is, that after they eat, that they're awake, even if only for a few minutes for those newborns, but for the bigger babies, that they should be awake as long as they can be before they go to sleep. There's a few reasons for this. Number one, they've got to work out all those bubbles, all those wiggles, and hopefully fill their diaper. The more they get out of their system, the longer they're going to sleep. And this goes especially for the last feeding of the night before their long stretch. Feed them, nurse them, lay them out on a blanket, hold them, play with them, interact as long as you can until they can't take it anymore, and then curl them up and put them to sleep, and trust me, they will sleep so much longer that way. The one exception to that rule are any middle of the night feedings. The best way to train your baby, especially your newborn, that day is day and night is night, because I don't know if you know this, but when they're born, they get it flipped around and they're usually up all night and asleep during the day. After you feed them, you put them right back to sleep. Don't get them up, don't turn on lights, don't play with them. But then during the day, as you're feeding them during their awake time, be sure to open all the windows, turn on the lights, have music playing, make it noisy, make it loud, and in no time, they'll learn the difference. Another tip is to be aware of the time. I recommend wearing a watch at all times when you've got a baby, because sometimes you just lose track. Let's be honest, we're a little sleep deprived, or in some cases a lot sleep deprived, depending on the age of baby, but your baby should be eating about every 3 hours. What you need to do is look at the clock, note the time that you're feeding them, and give them a full feeding. No snack feedings, give them a full feeding. And then if it hasn't quite been 3 hours yet, you can guess that they're probably not hungry. There must be something else to it. Maybe it's a bubble, maybe they're teething, whatever it is. So just watch the time, and it really helps you to get in tune with your baby and what their needs are, and not always run to feeding them every time they start getting a little fussy, which can totally throw off their sleeping schedule. My next tip is that routine is key when getting your baby to become a good sleeper. And this goes for all your kids, not just your babies, on up to teenagers, okay? Get in a routine. What my routine is for my babies is we get them in the tub no matter what. Sometimes it's a quick tub, not even with soap or anything, just nice warm water. Let them play, let them splash, get them nice and clean. We get them out of the tub, we give them a nice rub down, kind of like a little baby massage with some lotion, put on a clean diaper, put on some nice warm jammies. It becomes routine. It becomes this Pavlov's dog scenario where their body actually responds to this nighttime routine, and it starts to make them sleepy. So get in a routine, and before you know it, when nighttime comes, they'll know what to do. My next tip is one that may be a little unconventional, but it's to make it noisy. As you can tell, my babies are used to sleeping through noise, and that's one of the best tips I can give any new mom out there especially. Don't keep the house quiet. Don't put the sign on the doorbell. Don't be afraid to vacuum. Keep the TV on, keep the conversation going. And what I like to do is I keep a white noise machine, not only in my baby's room, but in all of my kids' rooms, so that they just get used to sleeping with noise. But what you have to consider too about newborns is in the womb, it is actually really noisy. They're hearing the of blood passing by, of your heart pumping. They're hearing your voice, they're hearing you breathe, they're hearing all the same noises you are in the outside outside world. So for them to go from this noisy environment to suddenly a quiet one can actually make them a little bit uncomfortable. So white noise is very soothing to them, and then noise in general will help them become a good sleeper and not wake up every time they hear something. My next tip is to swaddle your baby. I'm gonna catch myself on this because I have said the same thing, but a lot of moms will say, oh, but my baby doesn't like to be swaddled. Here's what you have to understand about their bodies. When they are very young, like 3 months old or less typically, their bodies have these reflexes. There's actually a name for it. I can't remember it, so I'll pop it up on the screen here. When their arms are exposed, they actually jolt out and can jolt themselves awake. It's kind of like a reflex. Not only is it soothing to them because it reminds them of the womb when their arms are tucked in snug and tight, but it actually keeps them asleep longer because then their arms are not having this natural reaction that newborns have that will wake them up. They might fight you on the swaddling a little bit. They may try to pull out of it, but they also don't really know how to fight those reflexes. So again, just trust their instincts, keep their arms in tight, and they will sleep in longer. Another tip is to put your baby down to bed when they're sleepy but still awake. This is important because otherwise your baby, especially as they get older, will get in the habit of only being able to fall asleep fully in your arms. And that is a habit, trust me mamas, that is really hard to break and is really hard to do, especially once you have more than one baby. Swaddle them up tight, put them down in their bed, all nice and snug and warm when they're sleepy but still awake, and then walk away and let them fall asleep on their own accord. Another tip with laying them down to sleep is to remember to rotate their necks. When they're super little, they may start to favor one side or another, and it'll stretch their muscles more. It's called torticollis, but you want to avoid that. And you also want to avoid the flat heads. So when you lay them down, turn their necks this way one time, this way the next time. I actually like to wear a little wristband or a hair tie on my wrist that reminds me which side I laid them down on first. Also, this goes for nursing, that you want to remember that if you started nursing on the right side, that you want to start on the left side next time. Nobody wants lap-sided girls, if you know what I'm saying. So that same bracelet can kind of work as a reminder for both. Okay, let's talk about sleeping in car seats for a second. As you've probably read on your warning labels, or maybe your doctor's told you, it really is not the best for your baby to sleep in car seats, and sometimes it can be downright unsafe. Keep that in mind. I do not recommend letting your baby sleep in the car seat outside of driving in the car. But that being said, there are times where you obviously have to be in the car with your baby in a car seat, and it would be nice if they were asleep. If your baby hates the car seat and will not sleep in it, my trick is to put them in the car seat, get them all nice and snug, but then take a small blanket or a swaddling blanket and just kind of tuck their arms in next to them along their sides after they've been buckled properly. And then as you have them in the car seat while you're driving, it keeps them snug and swaddled like you would in their bed, and they will sleep so much better and be so much happier in their car seat. Now, it's the middle of the night, your baby's been sleeping, but they wake up for their middle of the night feeding. My tip for you to keep them asleep and not let them wake up too much is, number one, try to just keep a little night light by your bed if you can, so that you don't have to turn on a lamp or an overhead light, which will wake the baby up. And number two, as you're nursing them or bottle feeding them, let them get halfway through their feeding and then change their diaper. Don't change their diaper at the very end. You do want to change their diaper because otherwise they won't sleep as long in the morning. Even if it's only wet, it'll just get too full. It's uncomfortable. So change it halfway through. Why? Because let me tell you what, those wet wipes get cold. I don't know about you, but if I was asleep and someone took an ice cold wet wipe to my butt, woo, it would wake me up fully. So keep that in mind. Change them halfway through, and then when they go back to finish their feeding, they get nice and sleepy and fall right asleep, which is okay. Remember, you don't want a wake time in the middle of the night. There are things like wipes warmers that you can try. I've tried them. They worked okay, but still as a general rule, I always change my baby halfway through. Tip is my super secret mom hold that took me 6 kids to perfect. I think I finally got it down. We'll call it the Jordy hold. How about that? But when you're trying to get a baby to sleep, especially a baby that's a little fussy, maybe has a rumbly tummy, here's the best hold for them. Have your baby flat across your stomach with their face kind of into your bicep so that their nose is still exposed and they can still breathe, of course, but it kind of closes their eyes for them. And then you put your arm in between his legs and pat his back like this, and then rock. So the motion of the rocking, the light patting on the back, the pressure on his tummy, my side holding in the binky, and then my biceps kind of keeping his eyes closed. But put this baby to sleep in no time. And last but not least, the tip that you should all remember is to sleep when baby sleeps. So there you go. Those are my tips for getting your baby to sleep through the night. Keep in mind that every baby's different. Usually when your baby's about 10 pounds is when they're big enough to start sleeping for longer stretches. But before you take my advice or anybody else's, please consult your doctor. Hopefully those tips help you, and I know they've helped me with my 6 babies. If you like videos like this, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me to know what kind of content you like to see. If you have any other baby questions for me, leave them below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification bell. If you don't mind, I'm gonna take my own advice, and since this guy's sleeping, I'm gonna go take a nap. I will talk to you guys later.